It's a real pleasure to be doing our first Mindspeak this year, and it's a real pleasure to have one of the top 40 under 40 women. And I can tell you that she really is top of her game. We spent some time this week, we spent some time at the end of last year together, and I'm really impressed. Margaret runs a business with about 250 people in the office. She's really one of the most successful women I know in Kenya, and I'm proud to call her a friend, and I'm excited to have her here today. And I can see that so is everybody else. The polling business is taking off. It's already been taking off, and it's really important, I think. There's so much emotion about so many things, and this is a way of bringing a bit of science to it. Margaret has had a tremendous career. She does a lot of CSR as well. She's set up research clubs, which I'm sure she'll tell us about, at schools. I think there are 4,000 research members now. But more than that, really, she is running a big business at the cutting edge in Africa, and I think it's going to be a real privilege to hear her today. Getting to know her over the last few months, what I'm impressed about is she's cool. She does not appear to feel any pressure. It's really amazing. And she instills confidence. Every time I meet her, I leave feeling very confident. And I think that's a great quality to give people. So I'm really excited to have Margaret here today. And you can see we've got a full house today for you, Margaret. And I really look forward to hearing what you've got to say. I'm going to give you the podium. Thank you.
Let me tell you how I met Ali Khan before I start with my presentation. I'm not been on Twitter for a very long time, and the young techie guys in my office kept on saying, hey, why aren't you on Twitter? They actually seated here. So I got my first tutorial on Twitter, then I asked them, who should I follow on Twitter? So I was given a list of names, and Ali Khan's name was on the list. So I was like, interesting. Then I went for a function about a year, I think it was last year, and Ali Khan Sachi was there. So here was my colleagues, let me not say their names, and we kept on saying, we must get a photo, we must get a photo. Eventually, I took a photo, and I showed it to the kids in my office, and they were like, whoa. Anyway, the rest is history, and I've been interacting with Ali Khan for a while, and I agree we are becoming to be better friends. Okay, and my Twitter handle is Maggie Ireri. When he asked me to come here today and talk about my life or my experience, I was a bit reluctant, and I said maybe I would come. I was actually supposed to come in December. I chickened out. Then I said January. Then January, the month started, and I knew 26th was an important day on my calendar, but I didn't really follow it up with Ali Khan. So on the 5th of January, when he called me to remind me, I was like, okay, I think he was serious, so I'm coming. So thanks for coming this morning. It's an honor to have you listen to me, and I hope that by the time I'm done, you'll have learned something about my experience. So let me start with my early life. I mean, people say that when they were growing up, they thought they knew they would make it, or they used to get A's in school. For me, I had a very ordinary life. I'll wake up in the morning, go to school, come back home, play, and that was it. I was not a troublemaker. I rarely got punished in school. In fact, I avoided controversy as much as possible. I know I avoided the spotlight, and standing here in front of you and actually doing what I do is something that I've had to learn to do and be comfortable doing. I remember when I was in high school, in my high school, we used to vote prefects. And you'd go to the front of the assembly and say, my name is so-and-so, please consider me for prefect. When I went to the front of the assembly, I said, my name is Margaret Ireri, and I do not want to be prefect. Should you vote me as prefect, I will resign. If you force me to be prefect, I'll be the worst prefect you've ever known. and I did not become prefect, which was good. That's what I was hoping to achieve. However, I remember when I was in high school, even though I did not take positions of responsibility, I learned to influence people. Meaning that even if there were 5 people who are prefects, I could actually get my agenda sold to them, and it would happen. So I remember in Form 4, we used to have pre-mock exams. I don't know whether that happens now. Then mock exams, and then the national examinations. And for me, I felt that it was a waste of time to take 2 weeks to do pre-mocks, then come back in second term, study again, then do the mock exams, especially when we were so behind the curriculum. And I started this concept that it is not important for us to do pre-mocks. And I sold the idea. By the time we were going to see our headmistress with our request, the concept had actually caught on, and we were able to convince our headmistress that we should not sit for pre-mocks. So I remember in my early life, I was able to influence people, not necessarily be at the forefront, but at least influence people to take on an idea and run with it. And that's what I still continue to do today. Even when I'm working with my colleagues at the office, I don't have to be the one to do everything, but if I can convince them to do something then, and they do it, then it's quite good. But what I've basically learned is that an ordinary person can actually be extraordinary eventually. And I'm going to talk about some of the principles that have helped me get to where I am. So people ask me, what did you study? I tell them I have a Bachelor of Education degree. And they're like, really? You don't have a statistics degree? I say, no, I don't have one. You're not an economist? No. I have a Bachelor of Education degree. So you're supposed to be a teacher? I say, yeah, I'm supposed to be a teacher. I should be teaching in class. So when I went to campus, in our lot, we did not have the parallel program. So the course that you were asked to do was the course that you did. There was no option. And I remember I really wanted to study law, but I didn't make it. So I was called to do an education degree, which I went to campus because my parents said, you know what, go to campus because it's the most important thing to do. So I went to campus, and it was just a period of 4 years just to get a degree. And what I realized, and this is something I've carried on for most of my life, is that I don't operate very well under pressure. So when I went to campus, assuming that I went to class today, by end of the week, I'll probably be going through the notes that I made over the week. So from day one, I would read a bit here, read. At the end of the semester, I would sit for exams, but I'm not the kind of person who used to kill nights, putting your legs in a bucket and trying to read your notes. I can see some people smiling. That's a familiar tactic, isn't it? If I kill a night, it's maybe to finish a report now, but in my studying life, I never killed a night studying because I started reading early. So by the time the exams came, I would sleep at 9 o'clock the night before. I would go and write my exams, and I would pass. So for me, I've been always a planner. I always start things way in advance. At some point, I got bored of the university because I was like, okay, I'm doing a Bachelor of Education degree, not very difficult. I'm not really working that hard. So Kenyatta University had a crash program where they decided instead of having a 14-week semester, they were going to crash the semester into 7 weeks, meaning we'd be in class from 8 to 5, Saturday and sometimes Sundays. So I decided to go for the crash program, and I really, at that particular point, worked under pressure, and I graduated at least about a semester ahead of my counterparts. Now, that is university, nothing spectacular, to be honest. My life was ordinary. However, what I realized was that if I'm going to have a degree in education, and for those people who have been to an education class in campus, we were hundreds. I mean, this hall would not have been enough to fit the size of my class. And if you came late to class, there were no seats. you'd have to go and look for a seat. If you sat at the back, and that time the lecturer did not even have a PA system, you'd not hear anything. I looked at that class and I said, you know what, I'm in so much trouble because there are thousands of us. And if you look at other universities like Nairobi universities, there are people who do Bachelor of Arts. We are so many. How am I going to survive this jungle? And even if I get a first class honors, what am I going to do with that degree? It's just a Bachelor of Education degree. So I said, you know what, I'm going to become a hustler. So this is not related to academics because I was getting the minimum or the requirements. So what I started doing was working for my family business. I mean, that's my parents' business. My mom then had a supermarket. She was the first supermarket ever in the estate, and I started working there. So I would go to campus Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then on Friday, most of the time we didn't have classes. I'd be working at the supermarket, and at that point I used to earn, I think, 1,000 baht per day. That was good money. And with that money, I was able to do a lot of things. However, I want to remind you, I'm not the kind of person who looks for responsibility. You remember what happened to me in high school? I didn't want to be a prefect. Now, unfortunately, my mom got unwell for a long time, and it was a period when we had gone on strike at the university. So I think we were home for, like 4 to 6 months. And then my mom coincidentally was unwell at the same time. So I ended up running the supermarket. So here I was, barely 19, and I was running a supermarket with mature people. And I used to take stock, bank, decide what the things we were going to buy, customer service, and I did that for a long time, and I earned a lot of money. Imagine 1,000 times 30 days in the, I think, was it 2,000? That was a lot of money. So at that point, I got leadership skills. And that's the point I said, you know what? I'm getting more responsibilities. Let me take them on positively. After all, I was getting money.